Hello and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I'm your host, Gabe Peterson, and this is the place investors go to gain actionable advice, learn about current market trends, and hear war stories from other professional investors out there in the field today. Before we get started, I have two quick housekeeping items for you. First, if you like this episode, we would very much appreciate a like, subscribe, and share. It is the best way to support the show and keep it running far into the future. Second, if you're a new investor looking to get started in real estate or an experienced investor looking to take your investing to the next level, I've created an ebook just for you that will cover how to find deals that are actually deals, how to finance those deals with little to no money down, and how to exit those deals for maximum value. On top of that, I throw in an insane amount of free bonuses that you'll have access to once you buy the ebook. All I charge is our admin costs to keep this show running. So if you're serious about real estate investing and want to create both active and passive income as an investor, head on over to the website at therealestateinvestingclub.com and click on the button that says get the ebook in the upper right-hand corner to grab yourself a copy. With that said, let's dive right in. Today we have a very special guest with us, ready to drop some investor knowledge on you. So buckle up, grab your pen and paper, and enjoy the ride. All right, we are live with another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. This time we're here live with Hans Struzyna. Hans is a realtor, podcaster, and former Olympian. Hans, thank you for hopping on the show. I'm super stoked to have you here.
Yeah, man, it's an honor to be here. Really appreciate you having me on. I know it took us a minute to get scheduled, but it's awesome to be here.
It's the beauty of COVID times, man. It's just technology left and right. Awesome. So let's get started here. Why don't you take us on a little journey into your past? Tell us how you got started in real estate in the first place.
Well, I think my journey with real estate needs to go back all the way to really my childhood, which was just influenced by real estate left, right, and center. My dad's a real estate attorney, and he wasn't always, but he eventually got into it and just has taken off with business formations, LLCs, buying buildings, selling buildings, all that kind of stuff. And my uncles, and then before that, my grandfather was a big real estate developer in Seattle. Oh, cool. And so a lot of his, anyone from that market, Hans Martin Smith Jr. was my grandfather, and two of his sons took over. So they have kind of a big name in the commercial world there. And then my dad's brother on the East Coast always owned apartment buildings. He had like 2 or 3, like several hundred unit buildings, and was an architect. So I was just sort of like subtly and not so subtly bombarded with real estate. And I always knew I wanted to be in that space. And I really thought I was going to go be a commercial broker and then, develop buildings, kind of like my grandfather and uncles. But through rowing, ended up taking a very different route. So you and I went to UW together, but we didn't know each other at the time.
Go Huskies.
Go Huskies. Go Dogs. And after graduating, I went to pursue the Olympic team. And long story short, ended up traveling all over the place and went back to San Diego multiple times and stayed with someone through an Airbnb. They had a little casita and a very large home, and they were there at the same time and offered to like cook us lunches once in a while. And so I got to know them, and they had all these tile samples out, and they were home during the day. And I was like, what do you guys do? And they're like, well, we're real estate agents and we flip houses as well. And I was like, he's training for an Ironman. She's outrigger canoeing. They're fit. They have 3 kids. They live in a cool house. That sounds like a life I could get into.
Sign me up. Let's do it.
And so I just stayed in touch with them. And long story short, they made me an offer after I came home from the Olympics and to join their team. And it was going to be kind of remote and flexible. And I was like, if I want to go train some more, I can. If I want to take this full time, I could do that too. And, off and running I went really from there.
That's awesome. No, I love it. And I do not want to, I want to make this about real estate, but, this is the first Olympian that I've had on the episode. So I have to ask, how was just the experience going through the Olympics, like as an
Yeah,
actual
man.
participant?
I mean, my rowing career was 12 plus years, starting in high school on Lake Sammamish, all the way
Nice.
to the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro in 2016, and it was awesome, and heartbreaking, and just I wouldn't change it for the world. It was everything that probably every person you've ever heard on a podcast or a movie say about it. It was all the emotions, and I'm sure we could do a whole nother show on that. And but maybe for another time. But it was pretty incredible.
Awesome. Did you guys bring home the gold on that one? I didn't actually get to see the 2016 Olympics.
Unfortunately, no. We were fourth. We were just outside of the medals, and I mean, I talk about this a lot on my show and when I get interviewed on other people's, but that like mentality of like we showed up to try and win a medal and we were capable of doing it. We just didn't have our best race on the day, and like how haunting that is, and how like you have to have this reckoning of you did everything you could, but it just didn't work out on the day. And I mean, again, a whole nother episode worth of content there we could talk about, but it definitely made me a better business person, better, friend, family member, husband, and definitely a better real estate agent and real estate investor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the performance mindset, it really is transferable through anything that you do. So I'm sure you brought, that had to have been quite a grueling experience. And you brought that dedication, that tenacity to real estate, which is why what you're here to talk about today. So let's jump back into real estate. So awesome. So you grew up, you had all the influences. You had your dad, your uncle, everybody in your family was kind of just not directly, but kind of, inundating you with what it's like to be in the real estate world. And so you got down after your Olympic career, you got down into San Diego, and you got hooked up with a job to be a realtor, which is what you're still doing. You're still acting as a realtor today in San Diego, correct?
Oh, so that's the interesting thing is I wasn't ever living in San Diego. I was always in the Bay Area, specifically the East Bay. So Oakland, Berkeley, Alameda, that area. And I was basically a satellite office. I was using all of their back end. I was using their scripts. I was using their payroll, HR, all that stuff that they had set up. I was just remotely dialing into it basically. And I was trying to take their model, which was more focused on foreclosures and short sales and that sort of stuff, and apply it to our market up in the Bay Area, which was a challenge. There's a ton of equity in that market. And so there's not as many of those types of deals. And frankly, they're tough in no matter what market you're going after, but that's where I kind of cut my teeth and got into the whole world. And I was very grateful that I started there. For one, I did like 9 deals my first year, which is pretty unheard of. And I had to wrestle them through escrow because they were short sales, but I learned a lot. And secondly, I came at it with a mindset of investing as well. So I was always looking like, is there an angle that we can turn this into a rental or a flip or whatever? And how do I talk to a seller more than just like, I can list your home and get a commission? I was always thinking about those multiple angles on everything.
Yeah. I mean, that, especially in short sales, that's got to give you a really good, as you said, kind of mindset. I've tried, there was only one offer I've ever made on a short sale. Didn't go through, but I've never closed on a foreclosure or a short sale. Everything has been off market. It sounds like you're a broker and an investor. You buy properties up here in Tacoma, where I live. And so you have both sides, you understand both worlds. So what is the short sale process like? And what can an investor expect when they start looking at those type of properties? Like what's the benefits, the pros and cons? Why would somebody choose to actually look for short sales and foreclosures over, doing off-market marketing or just looking on the MLS?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on your market for sure, but, it can be a really great way of finding deals and getting deals done because they are really complicated. Less so in the like minutia of the deal and more in just like the attrition and the time they take and just the amount of silly paperwork you have to do, especially if there's like a first and a second lender and you have to get them to agree and all this crazy stuff. But you can also work out a deal where you end up getting something for pennies on the dollar because the lender's more concerned about making themselves whole as opposed to selling for absolute top dollar like a traditional seller would. And so depending on how much is owed and how much the lender is willing to take a haircut on just to get it off their books, you can end up with a pretty decent deal at the end of it all. But you definitely have to be willing to put in some time and wait. 6 months is not unheard of to close one of those deals from contract to close. And you have the added pressure of a foreclosure date in there as well. So it can get hairy and complicated. So it's not for everybody.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. 6 months, really? Is that kind of the industry standard?
Oh yeah, easily. I mean, again, it depends on how many people are owed money and if there's an attorney involved and if there's a court date and there's so many variables. A traditional escrow, you have a handful of actors. Like you could easily double the number of people who have to be involved in the transaction. Each bank has its asset manager. Then there's the holding company, or excuse me, the servicing company who's holding the debt and servicing the debt. And there's an attorney and a seller and a buyer and agents. And like, there's all these people who all want their piece of that pie,
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So, kind of take us, that's your brokerage side. It's awesome you're doing that down there. So take us to your investing side, up here in Washington State. What have you guys done so far? What's your focus? Are you looking for multifamily, single family?
Well, just to round that out, I don't do that anymore. I actually got involved in a luxury team who's actually the number one team in the East Bay by volume. And so I am now in a very different space. My average price point is well in the 7 figures. So we don't do short sales anymore. And I'm really grateful for that because it was grueling. And now I focus more on like, how do I maximize someone's return or, how do we spend $1, get more than $1 out when we're listing a property, that sort of stuff for a very high end clientele. So that's a lot of fun in a different way. But as far as the investing goes, when I was training, I was doing sales jobs and driving a lot because that was the only thing that was flexible enough that I could train and make money. And I was selling solar, I was selling beer, I was selling this and that, whatever I could.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. That was a rowing connection. The head brewer used to be a rower, and it's a small world, as you can imagine. So,
right.
Cool job though. I had a great expense account on that one. And you're the popular guy at the bar if you can just open a tab and buy a round. So yeah, that was cool. But yeah, I was always listening to podcasts when I was driving to and from these appointments, and Bigger Pockets is really where I started. And I always knew like real estate is a great wealth building vehicle. You can get passive income through cash flow. If you flip a house, you can obviously make a big chunk. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat, so to say. So I was listening, reading for years before I really did anything. And not to mention I had to build up my 1099s enough to get lending. And so it took us a couple of years. My wife and I both are 1099s. She's also an Olympian. And we both had this goal together eventually to start buying rentals. And so we bought our first one in kind of middle of 2018 in Tacoma. It was a little duplex, and it had one tenant in it that was like smoking in the unit for the last 6 years, and it was gross. And
yeah,
so we actually at the same time had a flip going down in Hayward, so just a little south of where I was living, and we had this moment where we have like 80 grand tied up in this flip. The contractor puts a mechanic's lien on the house, which for any of you who know what that is, it basically, you can't deliver clear title when you're trying to sell.
A mechanic's lien? I haven't heard of that.
Yeah. So after the 2008 financial crisis, there were a lot of contractors who just got hosed because people were basically just abandoning these houses and not paying them, and they had no recourse. And So there's a law in almost every state that you can, as a contractor or a subcontractor or even a supplier, put a mechanics lien on the title of the house for some dollar amount that you're owed or you're supposedly owed, so that it ties your work to the property as opposed to an individual.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
And they're really easy to put on and they're really hard to get off. So it's a really unfortunate situation for the seller. That's why you should get, anytime you have a contractor, get a release every time you give them a check.
Yeah.
Pro tip there. So he did that. He thought I wasn't going to pay him his last payment, which was ridiculous. He was a jerk, frankly. But anyways, get this mechanics lien. We're about to list this property. We put the earnest money down for this duplex and we're down to like the last couple of bucks. Like it was hairy there for a second. And luckily our agent at the time gave us the advice. He's like, listen, you're thinking about this rental as a flip. Like you need to think of it as like a 2-year project with like 4 or 5 stages. So like paint it, do some flooring, do the basics on the first one, rent it, get it stabilized, get these other guys out in 6 months, flip that unit over, do some more, do the gutters, do some paint, do this or that. And luckily we took that advice, we closed, and then also got the mechanics lien figured out and got that flip closed, took that cash and invested it back into this duplex, which has now been cash flowing and probably almost doubled in value since we bought it, or darn close, because of the forced appreciation in the market. So yeah, that's how we got started. And we're on a goal to buy a property a year, which we've so far been able to do.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's awesome. So you were doing a flip at the time. This was a flip that you and your wife had been, doing together?
We weren't married yet, but she was sort of involved by default because she's, we're together. But I was really the one doing it all. And I had, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew there was margin in it, and I knew I could unlock it. So I was doing some of the labor myself. I was just running around, cashing out credit cards, really seriously down to like my last $2,000. Because my agent practice was slowing. Well, it wasn't slowing down, but it was not as robust as it is now. And so you go a couple months between checks when you're starting out in that world. Right. Yep. So it was a scary time, man, but it was like, if you're going to take a risk, that was the moment to do it. But we did, and it paid off because ultimately the downside was covered. That was something that I always looked at, was like, what's the worst nuclear scenarios? Basically, I can pay everyone back, but I don't make any money. And like, okay, I can live with that.
Yep. Yeah, man. I mean, I've been there myself. It's when you're down to the wire like that, you're just holding, thanking God, just please let this work.
Yeah, please let it close.
So, you bought that in 2018. It sounds like you bought another one last year. What was your next purchase after that?
The next purchase so that was a duplex, a true, side-by-side 1985 duplex. This next one was a 2 houses on 1 lot. And so we got that. Yeah, the appraisal was a challenge on that one because they appraised it as a house with an ADU, which they gave a really low appraisal for as a result, but that's neither here nor there. But we kind of were looking at it and we're like, I think this will demand a premium, but it was also built much later. And this is sort of the learning curve of real estate is, I sell a lot of old homes. Like the high-end homes oftentimes were built in the 1910s, 1940s. They have all this charm and character down in the Bay Area. So I was like, it's not a big deal. I kind of know what this is all about. But then you get in there and you start to, fix things and change things. And you've just got
to wire.
Right. Exactly. You've got some of that weirdness that you have to just somehow account for, just either mentally or in your budget, that you're not going to have on a 1985 new house. Right. But we bought this thing. We actually got a really good deal on it, I think. And we got a lot of seller credit. So we got the electrical upgraded. We got some foundation work done before close of escrow. And then we just finally got the second unit turned over and rented, and we're getting well over a 1% deal. For those of you who kind of look at deals like that, like we basically created a 1.2 or 1.3% deal, and it wasn't that way when we bought it. But that's something that we're starting to look for, is now that we've done two, we're like, okay, what's our underwriting criteria? Yep. We won't look at things older than 1978 because we don't want to deal with lead-based paint. We want to be able to create at least a 1.2 and have a cash on cash of blah, whatever it is, which we didn't have when we first started. And that's one thing I tell people is when they ask, how do you get started? Is like, learn the basics, but just get in there, because you're going to get smarter as you go. And if you're really committed to this thing as a long-term play, it doesn't really matter what your first deal was, as long as it doesn't bankrupt you, like you're good.
Just don't go for a $2 million deal. That's it. Just go for a normal house, but just do it, because that's what you got to do for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're at the end. It goes by super quick. So
I know, it's crazy, huh?
Push us into the quick question round. This is where I ask you really quick questions and you give me quick answers in response. And it starts out with your habits. So habits are the foundation of our life. So if you could give me one habit that you feel has contributed the most to your success today, what would that be?
I'll give you two real quick. One is working out regularly, because as we mentioned, I'm an athlete. Like, I know that world. If I can push my body and keep pushing my mental state in a workout, it'll keep me going in the world of everything else, basically. And then the other one is actually running deals through my analyzer instead of watching Netflix. That's how we found our first deal. Was we were about to watch Netflix. She's like, no, let's do 5 deals. And if we find nothing, we'll watch Netflix. And that's the night we found our first deal. So Killer. Now we do it.
I love it. Daily analysis. That's a good habit to start up. Yeah. I like that. Awesome. Next question. So if you could go back to the Hans, who say was just graduating at UW, just stepping off the podium, go to him, grab his hand, give him one piece of advice moving forward. What would that piece of advice be?
Is I would probably craft it if I had a moment to really think about it, but it'd be something to the extent of know that it's not going to happen overnight, but if you consistently work at it, the results will come.
Consistency. I like it. The next one's a little bit easier, and I think I already know your answer. Where is your favorite place to invest?
Oh yeah, Tacoma for sure. Yeah, love that market right now.
Great one. And final one, second to final one is books. I'm a big bookie, and so I like to ask people 2 book recommendations, one for anything related to business or real estate, the next one to general life wisdom.
Business or real estate, the one that's just kind of screaming at the top of my head right now is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Oh yeah.
Really enjoyed that one. I've read it multiple times, and I can tell you that those kind of tips and hacks and tactics work really, really well when you're negotiating a deal. So 100% that book. And then general life, I'm really into Mark Manson right now. Both of his, I don't know if I can swear on your podcast, but
go for it.
Simple Art of Not Giving a Fuck and Everything is Fucked are his back-to-backs. I would knock both those out. They're hysterical, but they're really well researched and thought through. So I've gotten a ton of just life thoughts and advice out of those.
Yeah, I've never read his stuff, but my cousin is like just all about him. And based on what he said about Mark Manson, I can tell I would really enjoy everything that he wrote. So great recommendations. Awesome. So we are at the end. You've given us great advice, great wisdom. So if someone wanted to reach out and get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
2 ways, depends on what your preference is. If you're on Instagram, that's where I hang out and post the most. So I'm at Chief Snah, SNAH, which is Hans backwards. And then if you prefer a traditional website, I'm relaunching my website in a few pages. It's just Hans Struzyna, STRUZYNA.com. and you can find out about my podcast, my real estate practice, any of the stuff I have going on. And you can there's tons of buttons that go straight to me. So you can click on one of those and let's connect.
Perfect. By the way, I should ask in this beginning, what, not nationality, but your last name, what word am I trying to find out? Not nationality. Where's your last name from?
It's from an area that is now Poland, but used to be Eastern Prussia. And I think we are German by descent on that side of the family. So, the borders moved about 25 times.
Yeah. Europe, somewhere in Europe.
Right. Exactly. So very, German, Polish world, Northern European strongly.
Cool. Awesome. Well, again, Hans, thanks for hopping on. I appreciated the conversation. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. We couldn't do it without you. Again, the best way to support the show is just to subscribe, like, and share this episode with your friends and family. Other than that, I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic week. Keep kicking ass in real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed putting it on, and we're able to pull some actionable advice that you can apply in your own investing today in the field. Before you go, we have a gift for you. If you're a new investor looking to get started or an established investor looking to take your investing to the next level, I've created an ebook just for you, available on our website. This ebook will cover how I was able to create both active and passive income in real estate with very little money to start with. In it, I will address the 3 most often cited obstacles new and veteran investors run into by showing you how to find deals that are actually deals, how to finance a deal with little to no money down, and how to exit those deals for maximum value. And if you get the ebook today, I am throwing in a bundle of bonuses, 7 of them to be exact. The first one will be the off-market lead generation blueprint, which will take you through the exact systems and processes we use to generate off-market leads like clockwork, which is the most important skill when it comes to creating wealth in real estate. The second bonus is the A to Z REI systems and vendors guide, which will allow you to peek under the hood of our business and see the exact tools, systems, and even the vendors we use to see the success that we do. And the third bonus is the top 100 best performing keywords pack, which will give you the exact keywords we use to target motivated sellers online using PPC ads. The fourth bonus is our contracts bundle for wholesaling and renting real estate, which will give you access to all the contracts we use in the field to execute all different types of transactions. After that is the Investors Quick Analysis Calculator and Offer Tool, which will allow you to quickly calculate whether a deal is an actual deal and will allow you to create an offer automatically from those calculations. This is a lot of bonuses that I said. I'm just going to keep going down the list. Number 6 is the Investors Daily Success Tracker, which is a tracker you can use to ensure you are taking the right actions day in and day out to reach your financial goals in real estate. And the last bonus is the Wholesalers Template for Quick Assignment Cash, which will give you the templates we use to present our wholesale deals professionally and efficiently to our buyers. Whew, that is a bundle. So it's a mouthful. You get all of those bonuses for free when you download the ebook. All we charge is the admin cost to run the show. So if you're interested in the ebook and the bonus bundle, head on over to the website at therealestateinvestingclub.com. Click on Get the Ebook Bundle at the top of the page to take advantage of that deal. And with that said, I hope you have a fantastic day, an even better week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.